In the quiet farmlands of Missouri, where endless fields meet a horizon of fading light, silence once became more terrifying than sound. For 7 relentless years, one question haunted an entire county. What happened to Officer Adam Mitchell? On September 14, 1991, Adam, a respected highway patrol officer, admired for his discipline and generosity, vanished without a trace. His last radio call was ordinary, routine, almost forgettable. Yet in the hours that followed, the ordinary became extraordinary, and the familiar turned into something deeply unsettling. Search parties stormed the countryside. Patrol cars lit up the night. Farmers abandoned their fields, neighbors left their homes, and hundreds combed the highways. But Adam was gone, swallowed by the landscape he'd protected for nearly a decade. 7 years later, a discovery would finally break the silence. But it wouldn't bring peace. It would bring only darker questions, unsettling clues, and the kind of truth that chills deeper than the wind across the plains. Before we dive into this haunting mystery, I'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from tonight? Drop your location in the comments below. And if you enjoy unraveling unsolved mysteries, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with friends who love true crime as much as you do. Let's uncover this story together. The morning of September 14, 1991, broke clear and calm across Benton County. Sunlight poured across golden fields, shadows stretching long and thin. Officer Adam Mitchell, always punctual, arrived at the station 15 minutes early. Adam had been a highway patrol officer for 8 years. At 32, he was known across the county as reliable, disciplined, and quietly generous. His presence on Highway 287 had become a reassuring sight for travelers. His chrome motorcycle carried a reputation of its own. Residents recognized the low rumble from miles away. Children waved from porches when he passed. Stranded drivers knew help was coming when that engine appeared. Adam was the kind of officer who went beyond the badge. He kept tools, jumper cables, and extra gas in his motorcycle compartments, often paying out of pocket to get struggling families safely on their way. His uniform was crisp, always spotless, with boots polished to a shine. Dark hair trimmed neatly, posture steady, Adam carried himself with quiet confidence, never raising his voice yet commanding respect from everyone he encountered. That Saturday, the weather seemed almost perfect for patrol duty. 72 degrees, light winds drifting from the southwest, and endless blue skies. Adam logged in his shift with calm efficiency, testing radio and equipment. The desk sergeant remembered Adam pausing for conversation before departure. He mentioned plans to visit his parents after duty. His words were relaxed, routine, like any other day. There was nothing unusual in his tone. By mid-morning, Adam began his patrol along Highway 287. The road stretched like a silver ribbon through Missouri farmland. Rolling hills, wheat fields, scattered farmhouses, a landscape familiar to Adam down to every curve. He stopped for his usual coffee at Miller's gas station. Locals greeted him by name. His presence brought comfort to regular travelers. He laughed briefly with the attendant, enjoying the kind of small-town familiarity few outsiders experienced. The day remained uneventful. Traffic was light. Mostly families heading toward Springfield, farmers hauling equipment, and a few long-haul trucks. Adam monitored conditions, reporting everything as normal. Hours passed with steady, unremarkable routine. By mid-afternoon, he passed Riverside Diner, another frequent stop on patrol. Patrons inside lifted hands in greeting through the window as he slowed briefly before continuing northward. His face carried no tension, no visible concern. At precisely 3:47 p.m., Adam's voice crackled through the radio. Calm, professional, unhurried, he called in Code 7, meal break, logging his location at mile marker 143 near Riverside Bridge. Dispatch acknowledged. Nothing seemed out of place. It was expected Adam would resume patrol by 4:30 p.m. The minutes slipped by. At 4:45, dispatch attempted radio contact. Static hissed back. No response. The silence felt heavier than ordinary static. By 5:15, a second attempt was made. Still nothing. Tension began building. Officers across the county leaned closer to radios, listening for Adam's badge number. Silence pressed against them like an approaching storm. At 5:30, Sergeant Tom Bradley tried direct contact. Still silence. Protocol demanded action. Search procedures were initiated. Patrol units began moving toward Riverside Bridge. Dusk approached, lights flashing red and blue against fading daylight. By 6 o'clock, the first search vehicles rolled out, sirens off, lights cutting across fields. None realized then they were beginning a search destined to grip the county for years, becoming its darkest memory. 3 patrol units converged on the bridge. No motorcycle, no skid marks, no uniform, nothing disturbed the roadside earth. It was as though Adam had simply vanished, swallowed by the land he had protected. Darkness fell, but the search expanded. Volunteers arrived with lanterns, farmers left equipment idle, neighbors carried flashlights. Voices called Adam's name into night air. Nothing answered back, only silence. And that silence would linger. The silence following Adam's final radio call weighed heavily on dispatch. Officer Linda Rodriguez attempted contact again. The static was relentless, empty, unforgiving. Radios across Benton County filled with nervous expectation. Something was undeniably wrong. Search units swept toward mile marker 143. The bridge loomed over a ravine, its concrete edges cracked from decades of storms. Patrol vehicles parked along the roadside, beams cutting into the gathering twilight, searching for familiar chrome. No motorcycle was visible. Officers scoured the shoulder, scanning for tire tracks, skid marks, or broken glass. Nothing. The pavement was pristine, untouched, as though Adam had never ridden this stretch of road at all. Sergeant Bradley ordered the first search perimeter established. Volunteers from surrounding farms soon joined, carrying lanterns, flashlights, even kerosene lamps. Entire families abandoned supper, leaving tables half set. Neighbors formed lines, combing ditches and calling Adam's name. The bridge echoed with voices through the night. Dogs barked in the distance. Crickets sang as if nothing had changed. Yet among those present, a terrible realization began to root. Adam had disappeared into pure nothingness. By midnight, more than 50 people searched. Old barns were unlocked, sheds inspected, fields trampled. Farmers searched pastures with rifles slung over shoulders, their beams sweeping across the grass. No sign of Adam, not even a glove. Dawn arrived with helicopters sweeping above in wide arcs. Their rotors beat against the countryside. The command post shifted to Miller's gas station, where maps spread across folding tables showed grids of search terrain. State police joined, alongside deputies from neighboring counties. Tracking dogs sniffed near Riverside Bridge, catching Adam's scent before losing it abruptly beyond the tree line. The trail died within yards, leaving investigators puzzled, unsettled, and desperate. Locals gathered near the diner, trading hushed theories. Some whispered about ambush, others feared accident. A few dared mention darker possibilities, revenge from past arrests. Yet no evidence supported any speculation, only silence, deep and resounding. That evening, reporters arrived, cameras flashing as they interviewed tired volunteers. The missing officer story spread beyond Benton County. By the second day, over 200 people participated, driven by loyalty, duty, and gnawing fear. Adam's family appeared at the command center, faces pale yet steady. His father hiked through brush with searchers, photograph in hand. His younger brother organized supplies. Hope was their fuel. Silence was their torment. By week's end, false leads poured into the sheriff's department. Reports of a patrol motorcycle spotted in Kansas City, or a man resembling Adam at truck stops. Each claim investigated. Each one dissolved into nothing. Psychics began calling the department, offering visions. Letters arrived daily, scrawled with theories. Some insisted Adam had left willingly. Others painted images of ambush and violence. Investigators listened, but the trail remained barren, cold and cruel. Weeks rolled into months. Prayer vigils filled church halls. Neighbors gathered with candles, their voices breaking while singing hymns. Businesses donated food, flashlights, and fuel. A reward fund reached thousands, hope woven into every contribution. Yet the seasons turned, and winter arrived. Snow smothered the land, covering any evidence left behind. Patrols searched when weather allowed, but the ground revealed nothing. The countryside seemed to have swallowed Adam whole. By the one-year mark, the case teetered between active pursuit and cold silence. Adam's badge number was retired in his honor. The county held a memorial service, yet without a body, grief was painfully incomplete. Detectives debated theories: mechanical failure, medical collapse, or foul play. None explained the vanishing act so clean, so sudden, so absolute. The missing minutes between Adam's final call and radio silence haunted every discussion. The search had begun with urgency, with energy, with faith. But as time passed, Adam's absence hardened into something heavier. He had not simply vanished. He had been erased, and nobody yet understood how. The disappearance of Officer Adam Mitchell shook Cedar Falls like an earthquake. The town of 3,400, where everyone knew each other's names, suddenly felt different. Fear crept into conversations, whispered behind closed doors. Shops along Main Street placed missing posters in their windows. At the diner, talk of crops and weather was replaced by speculation about Adam. His absence felt personal, like the county itself had lost breath. Prayer vigils gathered in churches night after night. Men who rarely shed tears wept openly. Farmers knelt beside businessmen, heads bowed together. Adam was not only an officer, he was family, a neighbor, a brother. His father Robert carried his photograph everywhere, showing it to strangers, hoping someone had seen him. His younger brother Daniel drove in every weekend to search fields and comfort their parents. Grief mixed with unbearable uncertainty. Without answers, theories multiplied. Some believed Adam had been ambushed by someone holding a grudge. Others feared an accident had sent him off-road. A few whispered about corruption. No theory carried evidence, only painful speculation. Detectives wrestled with possibilities but found little progress. Adam's spotless record and trusted reputation provided no motive for voluntary disappearance. He had no debts, no enemies of record, and no signs of unrest in his life. Local politics complicated matters. The county worried about the case damaging its reputation. Funding for ongoing searches drained resources. Residents, however, refused to relent. Volunteers still gathered, searching abandoned barns, riverbanks, and dense woodlands. Newspapers across Missouri covered the story, headlines painting Adam as a dedicated protector swallowed by mystery. Families outside Benton County began mailing donations to the reward fund, hoping money might finally shake loose hidden answers. The investigation faced obstacles. Autumn rains turned dirt roads to mud, slowing searchers. Winter arrived with snowstorms burying possible evidence. By spring, the case slipped from headlines, though in Cedar Falls the silence was deafening. At the one-year mark, a memorial service was held in the Methodist Church. The congregation sang "Amazing Grace." Robert clutched Adam's coffee mug, standing beside Daniel, eyes fixed on the stained glass windows. The badge Adam once wore was formally retired, his name engraved on a plaque, honored but unresolved. The ceremony brought solemn pride, yet no comfort. A father still waited for answers. A brother still searched. Detective Michael Torres transferred from Kansas City in 1993, assigned to cold cases. Haunted by his brother's unsolved murder, he saw Adam's disappearance as personal. He reopened files, re-examining details overlooked in the initial frantic months. Torres noticed inconsistencies in witness accounts. A trucker claimed to see Adam's motorcycle near Riverside Bridge, but his timeline barely aligned. Others contradicted each other, leaving gaps. Small errors hinted at bigger questions left unanswered. While reviewing regional files, Torres discovered troubling similarities. Two other men had vanished in recent years along the same route: a rancher in 1989, a salesman in 1990, both near Riverside Bridge, both without trace. Patterns began to emerge. All three, Adam, the rancher, the salesman, disappeared alone during daylight hours. Each had been traveling routine routes, each swallowed near the same geographical point. Torres drew a triangle on his map, the bridge at its heart. Rumors spread quickly. Was a predator targeting travelers? Had Adam stumbled into something larger than anyone imagined? At the diner, conversations paused whenever Torres entered, as though the community carried secrets too heavy to share. The county resisted renewed funding for deeper searches. Torres, undeterred, spent personal hours tracing leads, interviewing reluctant locals. Silence followed him everywhere, but instinct told him the answers existed, hidden in shadows, buried beneath small-town loyalty. Cedar Falls lived under tension. Streets once alive with laughter felt quieter. Evenings brought locked doors and anxious glances toward the highway. Adam's name lingered in every household. His mystery was no longer his alone. Detective Michael Torres immersed himself in Adam Mitchell's disappearance. Unlike others who had gradually accepted the case as unsolvable, Torres carried personal conviction. He had lost his own brother to violence years earlier, unresolved. The files on Adam's disappearance filled boxes: radio logs, maps, witness statements, photographs. Torres read them endlessly, hunting for overlooked fragments. Every line felt like a riddle, every silence like a deliberate clue. He kept returning to Riverside Bridge, the last known point of Adam's patrol. Built in 1934, the bridge had earned a dark reputation. Locals whispered of accidents, drownings, and an old curse hanging over it. 3 earlier fatal crashes had occurred there in the 40s, each involving vehicles plummeting into the ravine. Torres considered whether folklore influenced perception or whether predators recognized the bridge's isolation as opportunity for ambush. When he mapped Adam's disappearance alongside 2 earlier cases, a rancher named Dale Hoffman and salesman Gary Peterson, his pen circled the same zone. All vanished alone. All vanished without struggle. The pattern was undeniable. Torres pursued records from surrounding counties. He found small inconsistencies, hints of missing files, and reports hastily closed. The lack of cooperation suggested more than oversight. It smelled of obstruction, deliberate or otherwise, hiding truths. Locals proved reluctant to talk. Farmers turned quiet when Torres raised questions. Old men in diners exchanged glances, then changed subjects. Some muttered that certain topics were best left alone, warnings cloaked in casual tone. Whispers of an abandoned ranch property surfaced repeatedly. The old Mackenzie place. Its owner had died in the 80s, leaving 2,000 acres of neglected land. Locals avoided it, though teenagers occasionally trespassed to prove courage. Stories painted Mackenzie as reclusive, hostile toward visitors. During his final years, neighbors spoke of strange lights and machinery running late at night. Few believed the tales, yet the property remained wrapped in superstition. Torres visited the site on a bitter February morning. The house had burned, leaving only stone foundations. Outbuildings stood decayed, roofs collapsing, windows shattered. The property radiated desolation, isolation, a perfect hiding place for dark deeds. Inside the barns, he found nothing but rusted tools and animal nests, yet the sheer size of the property unsettled him. To search it thoroughly required manpower he could not secure through official channels. Funding requests for ground-penetrating radar were denied. Paperwork stalled. Jurisdictional issues arose. The land technically still had an owner of record, complicating warrants. Bureaucracy, like quicksand, dragged every attempt Torres made to move forward. Frustrated, he searched on his own time, burning fuel from his own pocket. His marriage strained under the obsession. Friends stopped inviting him out. Yet Torres felt chained to Adam's case by conscience. He saw Adam's father regularly, updating him on progress. Robert Mitchell, aging and exhausted, still walked with search parties, knees swollen but spirit unbroken. Torres could not abandon him, nor the missing officer's memory. Meanwhile, more threads connected. Seasonal flooding patterns near Riverside Bridge suggested objects might be carried miles downstream. Adam's motorcycle, Torres reasoned, could have been hidden by nature itself, buried deep under shifting mud and vegetation. He enlisted a geology student named Kevin Walsh to help with mapping. Together they studied drainage lines, soil types, and historical surveys. Walsh suggested certain floodplains where debris might rest undisturbed for years. This fresh perspective reinvigorated Torres. Patterns became sharper, theories more grounded in evidence. He prepared renewed search operations, certain that somewhere along the watercourse, Adam's story remained buried, waiting for sunlight to finally uncover it. Yet as promising as leads appeared, shadows still pressed in. Locals whispered of secrets best kept. Officials resisted involvement. The case had grown larger than one man, but Torres refused. Adam's silence demanded pursuit. Riverside Bridge stood like a scar across Benton County's memory. Concrete cracked, rusted rails leaning, the ravine below carved deep from decades of flooding. Locals avoided it at night, calling it cursed ground. Detective Torres spent countless hours parked near that span, engine idling, headlights sweeping across the shadows. He wondered how many secrets the bridge had swallowed, how many souls it had refused to release. Rumors whispered that Adam Mitchell's case was not the first tragedy bound to that spot. Stories stretched back decades. Accidents, disappearances, drownings, woven into folklore, blurring lines between superstition and hidden, tangible danger. Some elders claimed travelers vanished there before. Others swore the land beneath the bridge carried bad luck. Still others said the ravine provided perfect cover for those wishing to stage accidents, hiding crimes beneath myth. While superstition lingered, Torres sought evidence. Records showed 3 fatal crashes during the 40s. Families remembered bodies unrecovered for weeks, dragged downstream. He began to wonder whether human malice used natural danger as convenient disguise. The bridge's remote location made it vulnerable. No houses nearby, no witnesses likely during quiet afternoons. An ideal hunting ground for predators who understood timing, geography, and fear. Torres knew such ground attracted deliberate cruelty. The abandoned Mackenzie farm added another dimension. Only 10 miles from the bridge, it sprawled across neglected pastures and wooded ravines. Its decay carried silence heavy as the grave, every structure collapsing into ruin. Local boys dared each other to step onto its land. They told stories of lights, of machinery humming beneath ground, of strangers spotted near rusted gates. Adults rolled eyes, but none ventured there willingly. Torres visited again during spring, mud thick under his boots. The barn roof had caved further, windows rattled in the wind. He searched quietly, flashlight sweeping across animal tracks, broken planks, and hollow emptiness. Despite emptiness, unease gnawed at him. The ranch's size offered endless hiding spots, ravines, pits, silos, old wells. Perfect terrain for stashing evidence far from watchful eyes. The thought pressed harder than any superstition. Neighbors remembered Mackenzie as unfriendly, suspicious of strangers. Some said he hosted visitors at night, men who never came into town. When pressed, locals went quiet, as though speaking further might invite danger back. Torres theorized that whoever caused the disappearances might have connections to that land, or perhaps simply recognized its isolation as useful. Either way, the overlapping geography between bridge and ranch could not be ignored. He sketched maps late into nights. Patterns emerged. 3 disappearances forming a triangle, the bridge at one corner, the farm anchoring another. Coincidence seemed less likely. Intent seemed more believable. Each detail narrowed possibility. Requests for deeper searches met bureaucratic walls. County leaders feared lawsuits, trespassing claims, and budgetary ruin. Torres felt strangled by paperwork, his determination tested. Yet he knew both bridge and farm held answers still buried. When searching alone, he marked suspicious depressions in earth, shallow pits covered by brush, sinkholes yawning near fence lines. Each detail was cataloged in notebooks, sketches carrying secrets officials refused to acknowledge. Every time he drove away, he felt eyes on him. Sometimes it was only deer in the tree line, sometimes only the echo of his imagination. Yet unease lingered, whispering that someone wanted silence preserved. The bridge stood cold, the farm rotted quietly. Yet both radiated a pull he could not ignore. Torres believed Adam Mitchell's fate was etched somewhere between these places, waiting for discovery, resisting it fiercely. By 1998, 7 years had passed since Adam Mitchell vanished. Seasons had changed, hope had withered, but Detective Torres refused surrender. Technology offered new possibilities, and with them came another chance to uncover truth. Geographic modeling and GPS mapping identified overlooked areas along Adam's route. Among them were floodplains where spring torrents might have dragged evidence miles downstream. Torres organized volunteers, determined to sweep ground nature had concealed. It was May when searchers gathered. The air was warm, the ground soft. Volunteers included former officers, outdoorsmen, and neighbors who still carried Adam's memory. Shovels, detectors, notebooks, every tool assembled for one more push. The search stretched into long hours of trudging through ravines, wading streams, brushing aside tall grass. Fatigue set in quickly, yet determination burned. Every volunteer understood the weight of what they sought. At 2:15 in the afternoon, sunlight caught a glint of chrome buried beneath brush. Jim Caldwell, a retired officer, paused. His hands trembled as he cleared mud away. Handlebars slowly emerged from the earth. Torres raced to the scene, heart pounding. There, half buried in soil and tangled roots, lay Adam's patrol motorcycle. Rust dulled the chrome, grass sprouted through spokes. Time had reclaimed it, but recognition was instant. The machine's condition raised alarm. Chrome should have been scarred by impact, yet some parts looked intact, others deliberately damaged. The placement seemed intentional, as though lowered carefully into the ravine rather than hurled violently. Adam's helmet was discovered nearby, cracked but not shattered. Its position felt unnatural, as though placed, not thrown. No skid marks marked the road above. Nothing suggested a crash had forced the descent. Forensic analysts later confirmed suspicions. Damage patterns didn't align with accident scenarios. Paint scrapes suggested dragging, dents pointed to deliberate strikes. The absence of blood or biological evidence deepened the mystery rather than resolving it. Even stranger, expensive motorcycle components were missing. Parts a thief might strip, but not those typically lost in accidents. The evidence pointed towards someone intentionally hiding the motorcycle, rather than leaving it behind by chance. The discovery shocked the county. What should have brought closure instead sharpened confusion. Families gathered at the site, staring down into the ravine, struggling to reconcile the rusted machine with the man they remembered. Inside Adam's helmet, investigators found something unexpected. A slip of paper, water-damaged but legible, tucked behind padding. The handwriting matched Adam's. 3 words were visible. If found, check old mine shaft. Signed with his initials. The note changed everything. It suggested Adam survived the initial disappearance. He had enough clarity to write, enough time to leave a clue. Hope flared, then shifted quickly into fear of what awaited. Mining records revealed several abandoned shafts within a half-mile radius. One lay closest, sealed decades earlier. Time and weather had weakened barriers, making it possible someone could enter or be forced inside. When Torres and a rescue team entered the shaft, their flashlights illuminated unsettling scenes. Camping gear, empty water jugs, medical supplies. Among them sat Adam's police radio, battery long dead, silent in the dark. The shaft told a story of survival. Food supplies carefully rationed, medical tools, evidence of injuries tended, bedding arranged methodically. Someone, likely Adam, had lived inside for weeks, struggling, waiting, perhaps believing rescue was near. But what chilled investigators most was the journal. Water-stained, fragile, yet readable. Written in Adam's handwriting, it chronicled nearly a month of survival, ending abruptly with haunting words. Someone's coming. Finally going home. The motorcycle had been found. The shaft had revealed his struggle. Yet Adam himself remained absent. The discovery, instead of closing the mystery, deepened it. The land had yielded evidence, but not resolution. The journal found inside the abandoned shaft was fragile, its pages warped by dampness, ink faded in places. Yet enough words remained to pull investigators into Adam Mitchell's private struggle for survival. His handwriting began steady, describing an accident near Riverside Bridge. He wrote of crawling through pain, stumbling until the shaft's entrance appeared. Injuries slowed him, but instinct for survival drove every decision thereafter. Early entries carried discipline. Adam cataloged supplies, rationed food from his motorcycle compartments, and used training to stay organized. His tone was steady, determined, reflecting the same professionalism that marked his patrol days. He wrote about tending wounds with the first aid kit. He described sleepless nights echoing with wind. His entries spoke of attempts to transmit radio signals, though underground stone walls swallowed them in silence. Days stretched into weeks. Adam's writing began to shift. Sentences shortened, ink strokes shakier. He wrote of pain worsening, of exhaustion settling into his bones, and of loneliness heavier than darkness itself. He described climbing to the shaft's mouth, searching for help. Each attempt failed. Injuries dragged him back inside. The mine became both refuge and prison, shelter from the world, yet barrier from salvation. One passage described hearing helicopters overhead. He wrote of waving desperately from the tree line, but losing strength too soon. By the time he climbed again, silence had reclaimed the sky. His survival ingenuity impressed investigators. He rationed matches, stretched supplies, and marked days carefully. Yet as weeks passed, entries turned desperate. He scribbled about visions, voices in the dark, shadows moving at the entrance. By the third week, sentences grew fragmented. Hunger, cold, heard something. Another read, voices near the shaft, light outside. His desperation grew, but hope flared. He believed someone had finally found him. The final entry chilled every reader. October 7th, 1991, 23 days after vanishing. Someone's coming. Finally going home. The writing stopped mid-line, pen stroke trailing downward, as though interrupted by sudden movement. The absence of further entries suggested interruption, either rescue or something darker. Investigators debated fiercely. Had Adam finally been found alive, or had hallucinations convinced him of voices that never existed? Yet the supplies inside the shaft told another story. Food wasn't entirely gone. Medical tools were neatly placed. Items suggested preparation to leave, not sudden collapse. Something or someone ended his stay abruptly. Torres examined the shaft repeatedly, convinced answers hid in details. Evidence showed someone had lived there methodically, not chaotically. Adam's discipline carried through even in desperation. His determination breathed through those weathered pages. But no remains were found. No clothing beyond what he described. No bones, no trace. The mine told his survival story, but withheld its ending, sealing his fate in silence. The journal brought new agony to his family. His father wept reading Adam's words, picturing his son alone in the cold. His brother clutched pages like scripture, desperate for answers they didn't provide. To investigators, the writings transformed the case from disappearance into ordeal. Adam had survived nearly a month. He hadn't vanished instantly. He had fought, endured, and left a message that deepened mystery. The journal became both beacon and curse. It proved resilience, yet highlighted absence. Each word made him more real, yet his body remained missing. Cedar Falls now carried not only questions, but Adam's haunting voice. The discovery of Adam Mitchell's journal shifted everything. For years, his disappearance had been framed as mystery or accident. Now it was survival, endurance, and a haunting suggestion that others knew more than admitted. Detective Torres pressed deeper. He interviewed locals about the weeks after October 1991. Some claimed to remember a stranger limping along back roads. Others hinted at sightings in towns hours away. None verified. In December 1998, elderly rancher Bill Morrison stepped forward. He claimed an injured man matching Adam's description appeared on his property. Torn uniform, exhausted face. Morrison insisted he drove the man to County General Hospital. Yet hospital records told another story. Archives from that year were incomplete. Staff who might have remembered were gone. Files had vanished after a system upgrade. Torres suspected erasure, whether through neglect or deliberate cover. The hospital itself carried connections to local officials. Ownership linked to a private corporation, tied with political figures. The possibility of a quiet cover-up loomed, suggesting someone wanted Adam's fate obscured permanently. Torres pushed harder. Requests for cooperation were ignored. Administrators offered vague answers. He felt stonewalled at every turn. Convinced truth lingered within missing records. A community-wide silence weighed heavier than any locked file cabinet. Robert Mitchell passed away in 2001 without answers. His final years were filled with prayers and unending grief. Daniel carried the burden afterward, vowing to keep Adam's story alive even as hope thinned. The community of Cedar Falls carried scars. Rumors thrived in absence of facts. Some believed Adam lived under another identity, hidden by circumstance. Others believed he was silenced, taken by forces no one dared expose. By 2000, Torres retired. His frustration was evident, yet he never fully let go. He admitted Adam's case had defined him, shaping both career and personal life, leaving unfinished questions echoing into retirement. Adam's disappearance became local folklore. Travelers crossing Riverside Bridge spoke softly, unwilling to linger. Children were warned to avoid back roads at dusk. The story had shifted from police case into generational cautionary tale. For law enforcement, the file remained open but inactive. Without remains, evidence, or new testimony, progress slowed to nothing. The case joined countless cold files, preserved in dust and silence, waiting for impossible breakthroughs. Yet Adam's journal lingered as living testimony. His words, structured, desperate, finally hopeful, ensured his voice outlasted silence. It reminded investigators that he had not vanished quietly. He had fought to survive, refusing to fade unnoticed. The motorcycle, the shaft, the missing records, all pointed toward a web of secrets. Whether conspiracy or chaos, Adam's ordeal revealed shadows in small-town America, where truth was sometimes buried deeper than rivers or mines. For those who searched, the unanswered questions became part of their lives. Why was the motorcycle moved? Who encountered him near the shaft? Why would hospital records vanish if not to protect someone? The mystery carried no closure. Adam's fate remained uncertain. His endurance stood as proof of willpower, but the silence surrounding him stood as proof of something darker, an unwillingness by others to share truth. Cedar Falls never fully healed. Roads Adam once patrolled now carried weight of memory. Every highway mile marker, Every bridge, every ravine reminded residents of the officer swallowed by mystery, leaving behind only fragments. Some disappearances leave emptiness. Adams left echoes, his story whispered through wheat fields, through bridge railings, through fading maps and dusty sheriff archives. The unanswered question remained, pressing against the land itself. What truly happened? In the end, silence became part of the legend. Secrets buried deeper than stone. And for those who remembered Officer Adam Mitchell, the mystery was not absence. It was presence, haunting every corner of Benton County.